All right,
Yeah.
we've beaten the dead horse on the draft on Shea Patterson. We're gonna move on here. This is my favorite segment of the podcast. I thought it went so well in episode one. This is voicemail questions. We had a ton of people submit questions this week, so if we didn't get to your question, don't worry. We're gonna try to throw those ones on the podcast for next week. So without further ado, here is our first question.
Hello, this is Zach from Chicago, Illinois. You can follow me on Twitter at U of M Hoops. And I was wondering what role you think each of the freshmen are going to play on the team next year.
Thank you, Zach from Chicago, for that question. Guys, let's just go freshman by freshman, and we'll all say how we think or what their role will be on the team next year. Let's start with Zeb Jackson.
I can start us off. I think, as with any freshman, usually I don't think he's going to start off getting real minutes. Honestly, obviously, if we play really bad teams, he'll get in the game. But I couldn't see him beginning the year against real teams getting legitimate playing time. Maybe during the end of the year, if injuries play a role, I could see him getting more legitimate playing time. But at least at the start of the year, I don't see him getting much PT. What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, like the story for most freshmen you're gonna have is they're they're not gonna get much playing time to start, but once the season progresses, they get more playing time and experience and a hand of the offense better or in the defensive schemes. I think you'll be seeing, especially Zeb. I mean, or Zeb. I don't know how to say his name, but just I think he'll get some solid minutes once you get into the back half of the season.
So I don't necessarily agree with him not getting significant minutes. I think that we're going to see a lot more of him than people think, because as people may know, David DeJulius just transferred, and I think that we're kind of shallow. Michigan's a little bit shallow at the point guard and shooting guard positions, so I think it's definitely possible that you're going to see Zeb Jackson getting like 15 minutes a game starting the season.
Oh, 15
So
minutes.
I don't think he's going to be sitting the bench the entire time. He's a solid recruit. He's a four-star recruit, and I don't think he's going to be sitting the bench like as much as some people think he is. I think he's going to be a solid backup and be 15 minutes a game at like either point guard or shooting guard. I
So
don't
do
Ryan,
you
know.
so do you see him playing like more than Bajima or Nunez? Like how would that playing time work?
Yes, I actually do see him playing more than Bajima, or Nunez. I don't know who's going to win that job, Bajima or Nunez, but I know that Zeb Jackson is most likely going to take some of those minutes and go maybe 15 minutes and maybe like 5 to 10 minutes for either Bajima or Nunez, whoever wins that job. But it's in my opinion that Zeb is probably going to end up being the backup point guard behind Mike Smith, and that the shooting guard is going to be the thing that's up for grabs. And I don't think that they're going to get as many minutes as Zeb Jackson will.
yeah, Ryan, I'm going to actually take that a step further. I agree with you way more than the other two. I think Zeb Jackson, look, when you bring in a freshman, it's all about, okay, are they ready to play? Are they not? And then where's really your team needs at? Michigan has a team need at the guard spot right now. We are thin there. Michigan did not land. I mean, they're still trying to, in my opinion, they're still trying to bring in another shooting guard if they can. But as the roster sits right now, Zeb Jackson's in for big minutes, in my opinion. I think 15 would be on the low end, in my opinion. I think you're going to see him be 15 to 20 minutes right off the bat. I think he's going to be similar to what David DeJulius was last year, right? DeJulius could come in and play either guard spot. So can Zeb Jackson. He can play point. He can play shooting guard. He's a 6'3". He's really athletic. Wait till Michigan fans see how athletic he is. They're going to be surprised. So he's a combo guard. He can play either spot. And then when we start talking about Bajma and Nunez, I think Badgema's the real wild card there. Nunez, I think we kind of know what we can get from him, which is shooting when he's obviously when he's feeling good, when his stroke is good, but you're not going to get much defense. You're not going to get much playmaking out of him. So I think Zeb is, and plus I think Nunez and Badgema are both more kind of, they're more of like a three than they are a two, especially Badgema. I think you're going to see them play behind Franz more than necessarily you'll see them take minutes from Zeb, in my opinion. So yeah, I think right off the bat, Zeb Jackson is going to get a ton of minutes, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. Let's tackle Jace Howard first. Ben, start us off with Jace.
I don't know how. I don't want to. I'm not being disrespectful to anyone. I don't see him getting legit PT without any injuries. If we're being quite honest. Yeah, I don't see it.
But, well,
what do you think, Jacob?
Well, I think I trust Howard, but I think you might see him get some playing time. Like, he's a coach's son. Jawad is probably going to subliminally give him some minutes whenever he legitimately can. But he's a legitimate Division I caliber player. He's a 3-star recruit. He's coming in. He's not gonna. He'll be one of the last people off the bench, probably. But I think he's gonna get a little bit of playing time. I think he could possibly, once he develops, I think he could eventually have a legitimate role on this team. Possibly start maybe once he becomes an upperclassman.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that take. That he's definitely. I think that he's going to end up starting when he becomes an upperclassman, develops more. But for now, I think that he's definitely going to be more of a depth piece his first year, especially with options in the front court like Franz Wagner and Isaiah Livers, and you got backups like Brandon Johns, and you have people who, like Max said, are more of like threes, like Cole Badgema. So, and also, not to mention Terrence Williams. So I think he's gonna have to play hard to get minutes this year. But going forward, especially with Livers graduating next year and maybe Franz leaving, I think that there's a great chance that he gets more minutes each year, just not so much this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm sorry, I almost said transfer candidate. No, I mean redshirt candidate for Jace Howard. I think very good chance he's going to get redshirted year one. That's not disrespecting him or his game. His position, Michigan is stacked at the 3 and the 4. He's a wing. Where is he going to play at the 3 right now? You're going to have Franz Wagner starting at the 3. Behind him, you're going to have Badgema. You're going to have Nunez. And then you're going to have Terrence Williams who can play the 3, and then you're going to have Livers who can play both the 3 and the 4. So it's hard to picture any minutes for Jace right now. Barring any injury, I definitely think he could be a red shirt candidate. So let's move on to, speaking of Terrence Williams, let's move on to Terrence.
I think he's definitely not going to be he'll definitely get more minutes in my opinion than Jace, but I couldn't see him. I can't see him playing that much, at least to begin the year. He's undersized. I mean, I see him being a legitimate starter in the future, but for now, I don't know. I don't know how well his game will translate to the college level, at least right at the start. I think with a little development, he will be a great upperclassman. But for now, I think he's similar, in my opinion, to Zeb, where he won't get many minutes. He won't get many minutes at the start, and I don't see him playing that legitimate minutes, barring injuries throughout the year. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, so Terrence Williams is a baller. He is going to shock a lot of people, and you're going to see him on the floor a lot this year. And the reason I say that is because it's a lot easier to get on the floor when you can play multiple positions. If you don't know what kind of player Terrence Williams is, just picture Isaiah Livers coming in as a freshman, if you remember him back in his freshman year. Very similar body, very similar height, and a very similar game. However, I actually think Terrence Williams is more college ready than even Livers was. I think Livers was more of a sharpshooter his freshman year. Terrence Williams is a great shooter himself, but he's a little bit more physical than Livers was and a little bit more crafty around the basket. Terrence Williams should be able to back up the 3 spot. And then you'll be able to see him at the 4 as well. I know that 4 spot's crowded with Livers and Johns, but Williams should. That guy's good. Michigan fans are going to be very, very surprised, I think, about Terrence Williams and what kind of role that he can play as a true freshman.
Well, I think right now we're sort of just underestimating what type of class we have coming in. I mean, we're kind of like disillusioned by Josh Christopher and Isaiah Todd not coming. That we forget we're the number 8 class in the nation.
Yep.
We're the top one in the Big Ten. we have 3 of our 4 guys are top 100 players. 3 of the 4 freshmen. Like these guys, these are great players. These guys are gonna play. You have to play them. They're, I mean, this is the new era of Michigan recruiting. We're not gonna hold on to these guys until they're upperclassmen and let them lose. We're gonna try to get them going as soon as possible so they can put points up on the board. So
I kind of disagree with that point. I think when you have so many good players, you make the assumption that you're just going to play everyone and that we're going to play 11 guys per game. And I just don't think that's Juwan Howard's system. I think people are kind of thinking that it's going to be similar to Florida State in a sense where you play a lot of guys. And I mean, obviously on almost any other team, these guys would get legitimate playing time, maybe even start year one. But I just don't see on Michigan. I don't see where the minutes are coming from.
I'm going to disagree a little bit there. I think that Terrence Williams is exactly what Max said he was. He is an undersized power forward / small forward. And if we've seen what Isaiah Livers can do at the power forward spot, he's 6'7". Terrence Williams is only 1 inch shorter. He's 6'6". And when Juwan Howard wants to play small ball, I think he's gonna like play Terrence Williams a lot, especially off the bench. He is a great scorer, and to be honest, I think that if as the season goes on, depending on what Juwan wants to try and prioritize more, offense or defense / rebounding, I think that Terrence Williams might be able to take more minutes from Brandon Johns Jr. than we think. That's just my opinion.
Yep, I agree with that. Brandon Johns is also another wild card. We'll talk plenty of Brandon Johns in future podcasts, but Terrence Williams is going to, like I said, in my opinion, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Let's move on to the 4th freshman, which is Hunter Dickinson. And I'll just start off really quick. Hunter Dickinson, I think, if you listen to podcast number 1, I think he's going to start. I think he's going to start at the center spot to start the year. He's that good. He's crafty. His athleticism kind of scares people away. People don't think he's very athletic. However unathletic you might think he is, he makes it up with just being incredibly fundamental, and then just crafty around the basket. He's bigger than Austin Davis. He's more skilled than Austin Davis. I expect him to start from day 1 next season.
I mean, yeah, of all the players, I mean, Hunter's the top ranked guy coming in next year by a fair amount. But I mean, yeah, like with the athleticism thing, yeah, he's not the most athletic player, but it's not like Austin Davis is this athletic freak by any means.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, he's definitely going to play. I think you'll see the mids be more split at the start, but yeah, I do believe once the year progresses, Hunter is going to have a more solidified starting role, and he's going to be balling. We're going to be yelling, "Give it to Hunter" on the post at the TV pretty early into the season. So,
yeah, I kind of agree. I think that Hunter Dickinson, I think he's definitely going to start right off the bat over Austin Davis. Austin Davis, do not get me wrong, he is a great player. He is a player that I think Michigan is lucky to have back for a 5th season. But I don't think that he's going to be able to beat Hunter Dickinson out for this spot. Because Dickinson is 7'2", he's an absolute monster, and he's good around the rim, he's good in the post, and he's also got a pretty good mid-range shot from what I've seen. So I think that is something that Juwan Howard is going to like to utilize and often, especially as the season goes on. I think it's going to be fun to watch him in this first season.
I mean, I think everyone can agree. I think he's going to play more than any other freshman this season. But yeah, I don't see him starting at the beginning of the year. I think Davis will get that nod as a 5th year. But he will definitely start, in my opinion, near the midway point of the season and to finish up the year. But I think Howard will give Davis the nod at the beginning, but it won't last too long.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say on Hunter Dickinson really quick is I think he's much more of a Juwan type center than John Teskey, and I think people are going to see that next year. I think he's going to be a much better rebounder than Teskey, and he's also going to be much more reliable to throw it in the post and just let him get you a bucket. So if you guys remember right, how we started off every goddamn game this year with that post touch to John Teskey, I think we're going to see that a lot more next season, but we're probably going to see Hunter actually make his hook shots, hopefully. So with that being said, that was a really long answer. So Zach from Chicago, you're welcome for the in-depth analysis there. Let's move on to question number 2.
Hi, my name's Rick Dunaway. I'm from Florida. I have a question. So, you think you break all the news when I live in a 200 square foot house? Everyone's coughing around me. My question to you is, Jim Harbaugh is going to retire after this. Everyone knows that already. I'm breaking some news here. Donald Trump is the next president and the next football coach of the University of Michigan. You heard it here first. My question to you, can you disprove that? I need solid proof that that won't happen. What is your proof?
So much, Rick from Florida, for that question. Does anybody have any comments on that, Ryan?
No comment.
Jacob?
Yeah. I mean, like Harbaugh leaving. I think we've heard those rumors ever since he got like Harbaugh's going to the NFL. Harbaugh's going to the NFL. Look at this. Look at this. It's never happened.
Okay, but
So-
this is coming from Rick from Florida. This is a Rick bomb. So are you saying he's
Oh,
wrong?
it's a Rick bomb. Oh, okay. Well, I bow down and yes.
All right. Ben,
Yeah.
what about you, Ben?
We got to appreciate Josh Gaddis now.
Exactly.
I mean, everyone knows me, Wolverine Corner, pretty much everyone on the podcast. We all are rocking our MAGA hats right now. And I mean, if he's our football coach, couldn't do any worse against Ohio State. So I'm all for it, boys. What about you, Max?
Yeah, we're gonna move on to question number 3 here.
Hey, yo, what's going on? It's Kyle Baskin. I was just wondering if you could choose one player from the Michigan football team next season that you think could have a breakout year and why you think so. Thank you.
Thank you for Carol Baskin for the question. And by the way, Carol, I know that you are innocent, so don't worry.
Ron.
Anyways, who do I think is going to break out for Michigan football this year? I think that's going to be Mike Sanders still. I think he's going to be a beast this year. I think he's going to be Michigan's third leading receiver, probably behind Nico and Ronnie Bell. And I think that, however, he only had 8 catches last year. I get that, but he was a true freshman. The coaches loved and raved about him all year long. And on those 8 balls that he caught last year, he averaged, I believe, 18 yards a catch. So he's going to be a big play threat. He's fast as hell, and I think he's going to break out for Michigan next year.
All right, so I think my breakout player is Dax Hill. And so last year he had 36 total tackles, 1 interception, and 3 passes defensed as a freshman on this defense, on a defense quite complex actually. And I see him picking up more of like a Josh Metellus role, except for doing it better. I think there's nowhere to go but up. And as a full-time starter, I think that he's going to make that jump.
My answer is, well, I don't know if this is really what he was looking for, but I think Dylan McCaffrey. I mean, when he's the starter this year, obviously he's going to have a lot more opportunity than last year, and I think he's going to really make the most of it. I think he's going to have a better year than Shea did both of his years, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to see what he can do.
Wait, so is Dylan McCaffrey? Would you consider him a dark horse Heisman candidate?
Oh my God!
No.
Do not give them bulletin board material.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Jacob, go ahead.
Well, what I'm gonna say now, he was already pretty good last year. I'm gonna say Aiden Hutchinson. He's coming back for his junior year. He was, he's one of the top guys on the line last year, but he's gonna be. I think he's gonna be a monster next year. he'll be terrorizing lines. And, I'm excited to see him get to the QB a lot more, stop these run plays. He's going to be one of the top interior. He's going to be one of the top defensive linemen in the Big Ten or even in the nation, in my opinion, next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a really good one. I agree with everyone here. I think all 4 of those players have a really good chance of breaking out. Let's move on to our next question.
Hey, it's LeBron again from Huntsville, Michigan. Wondering, is Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat if he wins less than 9 games this season? Thank you.
Thank you to LeBron from Michigan. I know you asked a question on the first podcast, so thanks for submitting again. Is Jim Harbaugh on the hot seat if he wins less than 9 games? Ryan, go ahead.
To be completely honest with you, I do not think he is, because then it would just be like an aberration of a year. I think that he's a proven consistent winner, even though he doesn't win the Ohio State games like we want him to. And I think that he may not exactly be like up to the fans' expectations, but I don't think that less than 9 games is gonna put him on the hot seat next year.
Yeah. Well, I can agree with. Like when it comes to if he goes 8-4 next year, I think, in my personal opinion, yes, I think he should be put on the hot seat, but I don't think he would if that actually becomes the actual how the season goes. So I do believe we'll have him for at least 2 more years. But I mean, like, if you keep losing to Ohio State, there's only so much losing we can take before we realize we probably need a new guy.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm gonna say, kind of like Jacob said, probably not, but he probably should be. With that said, I think when Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan, whether that's in 2 years or in 10 years, I think it'll be on his own terms. I think Jim Harbaugh will walk away before he is ever fired.
Well, I don't agree with that, honestly. But if he wins less than 9 games, I mean, obviously if he doesn't even make a bowl game, it's a lot different. It doesn't really specify how many games he wins. But I'd say if he goes 8-4, there will definitely be talk. I don't know. I don't see him. He definitely will get at least 2 more years. But if, let's say, he wins less than 9 games for the next 2 years, I don't think they'd keep him, if I'm being honest.
When it comes to 8-4, I think who those losses are to may depend on how, like, if they lose if they lose to Ball State, like if they get upset by some group of 5 team in the non-conference schedule, that might be like, really, like, that's just like, if it's to, like, if it's to Ohio State, if it's to Penn State, if it's to Wisconsin, that's kind of a different story.
Yeah, and it's also like how you lose. I mean, you can lose 4 really close games to good teams, or you can get blown out by 65 points. I mean, the record isn't the only thing you can look at when deciding whether to keep
blown out by 65.
Go.
Blown out by 65 points. Are you implying that next year in Columbus we're going to lose by 65? Because we might.
Yeah, I could see it being like, I don't know, 100-35. For being
definitely possible.
Giving Justin Fields an extra year.
They might hit triple digits.
Anyways, let's move on to.
Hey, but Don Brown would lose. But Don Brown would lose sleep over that.
Oh no! All right, moving on to our last question here.
Hey, this is Jake from KY on Twitter. I'd rather not say where I'm from. And my question is this: if Addison Easterling and Isaiah Livers were both standing in front of you, and you had the option to kiss one on the mouth, which one would you choose and why? Thanks. And that's for Wolverine Corner, by the way.
Thank you so much, Jake, for that question. And I am honored to have a question specifically asked for me. So again, thank you. As a pro Livers and a pro Addison Ray podcast, we're just going to let the listeners come to their own conclusions on that one, because I think you all know the answer. Anyone else want to chime in on this one?
No.
I wouldn't say we're pro Addison Ray. I mean, I'm not a big fan, if I'm being honest, but I know that might.
That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, but I don't know. is this a pro Addison Ray? Because if it's not a pro Addison Ray podcast, then I know who I'm going with too. So I think we can just leave it at that.
Ryan or Jacob, you got anything to add to this?
No
No.
comment.
All right. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions. We love hearing from all you guys. And like I said, if we didn't get to your question this week, I promise it'll be on next week's show.